me if you want to live. You just don't turn it off!
To come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. You're watching Backtrack Cinema, and welcome to my review of Braveheart. It is about time I got to talk about this movie. I've been wanting to talk about Braveheart for quite some time. It is one of my favorite films of all time, which you guys will see where it ranks on a top 100 films coming up. And this film, guys, just, you know, this movie came at a time where it just hit me. I was the right age. I saw it at the right time. I was only 15 years old. And it's a movie that really made me feel for the first time, where I understood passion with characters and the emotions and connecting with the characters emotionally. That, you know, I was a kid. I would watch Rocky. I would watch all these movies. I watched the emotional movies, but I was just too young and too immature at the time to connect with what's going on. And this is one of the first films that did that for me. And I was obsessed with this film for like 2 years straight. I absolutely just loved it. And I still love it. I still think the film really, really works. And it's a funny story too, because I actually got to go to the theater on a class trip in grade 10 for English media class. So there was an old farmhouse, a guy like a farmer, he converted like a barn into a movie theater, and it had reclining seats, and it's still there today, actually, called Highland Cinema. And so we had to write an essay after on the movie we watched. So we watched Braveheart, a handful of us, and I got a 20 out of 20. I got a perfect mark on my essay, which is nice to get high marks on something like that. I guess I was like an early movie reviewer even back then. Be warned, too, when I talk about movies that deal with history, this movie got gutted for saying it's so historically inaccurate. And a lot of you'd be right about that. I'm not going to put negative remarks on the movie because it's inaccurate with history. I mean, there are so many. I mean, you know how many movies out there that are so inaccurate? You know what I mean? So I think that's just unfair. Because, you know, go read about William Wallace. Go read about Robert the Bruce yourself. Look up the real thing. It's serving a story. They have to twist the story to tell it, to serve what story they want to tell. You don't go to the movies to get a history lesson. You know what I mean? Don't think what you're seeing on screen is the way it happened. Don't ever go into a movie like that. Not a history lesson. It's a movie trying to tell their story, to make you feel, for you to relate to characters. Let's be honest, a Scottish warrior, a Scottish patriot, these people who lived in the 13th century, there's no way you'd be able to relate to the real characters. This is like, what is this, like 800 years ago or something like that? No way. So they have to change things to make you able to relate to them. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of you get that, but I just want to give you my reason why. I'm not going to take marks off a film because it's historically inaccurate. God, you know how I could sit and name 20 movies right now that are so off the freaking mark of history. It's not funny. But anyways, I digress. But that's just my personal thoughts. So Braveheart tells the story of a Scottish warrior named William Wallace who leads a rebellion to freedom for his country and against England and the ruthless King Edward the Longshanks. Now, first off, right off the bat, I love the tone of this film. I love how Mel Gibson's directing style, he always gives you a visceral, very real, very gritty feel, and the film gets really, really intense. And like all his films do, there's a lot of blood in this. There's a lot of violence. This is a war epic, and he wanted you to put you in that experience and make you feel. That's what is historically accurate. Is just the tone and the feel he's going for. I mean, the movie is full of violence and blood, but it's also full of great drama, great romance. Like everything he's going for, you just really feel it for me. Like you feel the weather. Seeing how the people lived in these harsh conditions, these Scottish soldiers, you know, who are starving, they're outnumbered, they're dirty, everybody looks weathered. And the movie has great characters. Let's start with William Wallace, played by Mel Gibson. He leads this rebellion. The first scrimmage starts where he leads this rebellion. It's over his wife. They kill his wife. then, you know, he kills everyone involved. It's no longer about revenge. It's about getting their freedom. And this is what this character's all about. This character is about, I'm here to fight for my fellow Scotsmen. I'm here to get them freedom, make sure that they have it, and I'll take on anybody and anything to get that freedom. You know, this overall theme of freedom. You know, it's life is just not worth living without freedom, and it's all within this character of William Wallace. There's a lot of love to this character, but he's wickedly savage. You know what I mean? He's ruthless. He can be brutal, which they show in what we'll get to later, talking about some of these war action scenes. And it is funny because when I first watched this, and I watched it as a teenager and stuff like that, like William Wallace was my favorite character. I thought he had the best dialogue. I thought he was just a badass and everything. That was just the young teenager talking to me. But the most interesting character in this is Robert the Bruce, who's kind of like the rightful king of Scotland. And this is where the movie does have a lot of politics within it. And Robert the Bruce here is just a torn character. A character who wants to do the right thing to the Scottish nobles. He wants to follow Wallace. He's inspired by Wallace. He wants to, you know, he wants to lead on the field and charge, but he's trying to do making everybody happy, you know what I mean? And he loses himself. He goes through situations where he does the wrong thing, and he's got a really redeemable arc. And the performance by Angus MacFadyen here is really brilliant, actually. He's probably the best character if you think about it in the movie. You know, he betrays Wallace. At first, you know, he's so inspired by him, but he betrays Wallace, and then right at the end, he's supposed to, after they kill Wallace and torture him and all like that, and, you know, he's supposed to accept his crown from England and stuff like that. And that's why that end shot works so well, where he turns around and he says,
You have bled with Wallace! Now bleed with me!
Just gets the emotion. The guy, Buddy, throws the sword. Great stuff. But he's such an interesting character, such a great redeemable arc. I like his friends too, like, you know, Stephen, the Irish guy, and Hamish, played by Brendan Gleeson. Great actor, another great performance in this. He's William Wallace's best friend, like forever, and you know they add a lot of comic relief. These two, this loyal friends, and that's another thing too, is the comedy really fits in this movie. Like Mel Gibson knows when to use it and when not to, and I always appreciate that. Having a real consistent tone and everything. And Edward Longshanks, you know, the King of England, just a ruthless king, man. Played so well by Patrick McGoogan. This guy is heartless, and he only cares about taking over the whole island, and he'll do anything to expand his kingdom. He's just an evil dude, man. Like he plays it so good. And I really like the princess in this, played by Sophie Marco. She does a good job. She has she has a bit of growth too, where she's almost mousy when you first meet her. You know, she wants to feel love. She's not loved by anybody. But she turns into a really strong character where you could see that real queen someday coming out inside of her. And Mel Gibson was definitely pushing the envelope for the battle scenes, man. The battle scenes, he puts you right in the middle of it. So you feel like you're a part of it, you know what I mean? And it is bloody and vicious. Obviously, the viciousness seems a bit tame for today's standards now, because we've seen so much. But at that time, man, it was the most violent movie I've ever seen, man. And then you saw other movies like after this, like Saving Private Ryan pushing it, you know, Gladiator being a violent movie. And a lot of these war movies kept, you know, really putting the gas pedal on that violence, you know what I mean? But this movie, I just never seen anything like it at the time. Anyway, like, it was just vicious and bloody. It was intense. The main battle here, the Battle of Stirling, which is probably one of the most memorable moments in the film, because William Wallace gives this big speech, and it's what the whole movie really is about.
And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take Oh, freedom!
And Mel Gibson really borrowing from Shakespeare here, but delivering a very, very great speech. And I really, you know, just uplifting and moving speech. Like, you just wanted to fight too. You're just so on board with the Scottish army. And when they win this battle, it is so triumphant. It's like I keep saying intense because that's what it is. It's such an intense movie. I think this movie has such great dialogue too. I already talked about, you know, Mel Gibson's speech at the battle. All, you know, when the movie's romantic, all the stuff they're saying, it's not overly cheesy or anything. I think it really fits, you know what I mean? And the romance is actually really handled well. And I feel like the dialogue sounds fairly authentic. I may be wrong about that. Obviously, they talk differently all the way back then, but man, the dialogue just really worked for me. And, you know, that great line too about, you know, how every man dies, but not every man really lives. It's full of really good poetic stuff and, you know, not tapping into history, but tapping into the myth of this character and everything. And of course, our most famous line in the whole movie is freedom. How many times has that been copied or made fun of? You know, on his last breath, he says freedom. You know what I mean? He won't give in to this king. He won't give in to the pain. He stays strong right to the end. Just an inspiring movie and character. And the real star, like most stars of a film, is that music. James Horner doing another great, beautiful score. Just, it's romantically beautiful. It's sensual. You just feel through the dialogue, through the scenes, the way Mel Gibson will slow the camera down and let the music take over, like you're watching something out of an opera or a play, maybe. If I was to, you know, compare it to something, he does this a lot in his movies and just lets you feel, and that's through the music. Especially moments like when Mel Gibson's betrayed, just putting the music's there, and you know, even in the action scenes with the music is very good. James Horner, just a beautiful score, and along with that cinematography too. You know, the Scottish Highlands and everything, some really beautiful wide shots, and when you get all that music in there, you get, you know, Scottish jigs in here, and slower music, and romantic music, and very war-like drumming kind of music. It's all in here, man. Such a beautiful soundtrack, beautiful score, man. Beautiful. The only really nitpick I have really is Mel Gibson's accent is pretty laughable. I'm not Scottish, but I have heard Scottish people talk, and he didn't nail this accent. I know he was directing the film though, and as a director, he didn't spend too much time on any of his takes. He did 2 takes at the most on any scene in this whole movie, and he still got a performance out of that. But his accent wasn't very good at all. That's just nitpicking, I would say. Like I always said, I don't base it off how historically accurate it is, because I'd cut this movie apart if that was the case. If you really found out what really happened, which they don't know much about William Wallace, you could tear this movie apart. You know what I mean? But the movie just works so much for me. That's the only really nitpick I have. And it has one of the best trailers. Like, leave this review, watch the trailer for this movie, and then tell me you don't want to watch the movie after. It's pretty impressive. You know, winner of 4 Academy Awards, 4 or 5 Academy Awards too. You know, Best Picture, Best Director. I mean, Mel Gibson knows how to direct a film. I don't care what feelings people have about him and everything like that. That's besides the point. The man knows how to direct movies, man. He really does. And this movie is fabulous. I love it so much. Every time I put it on, I get really engaged. I'm into it. It makes me feel. And that's what I like going to movies for. When you really latch onto the characters and make you feel. It's really big for me anyway. Well, it's the perfect film for me, guys. I am going to give Braveheart an A. But what about you guys? What do you think of Braveheart? Do you like it? Don't you like it? Let me know in the comments below. We'll have a great discussion on Braveheart. If any of you historians are watching, give me a history lesson, man. Tell me. I like that. I like hearing from people about all this kind of stuff. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I finally got to review Braveheart. Thank you for watching, guys. Like and share the video. It really helps the channel out a lot. And I will see you next time. My name is Jason. You're watching Backtrack Cinema. Cheers.